Welcome. My name is Penelope Chatterton. Welcome to Awaken the Dream. And my friends, this is a very special show. I don't want to say closure, but I am finishing up, I would say, over 10 years of being a student teacher to Joel Goldsmith of The Infinite Way. And today I'm mopping it up because I'm moving on to a new chapter. It's all joyful and I'm excited. And I, first of all, before I go into my family and into Joel, I want to talk about my team here. We've got Tim Riley. He's been my director forever. I think I commuted from the Cape to have Tim do my show years ago. He knows my every move. He's very talented. He's a great friend and will always be in touch, but I want to thank him. And then I want to thank Ellery Moori, who is my web designer. She gets the shows from Tim, puts them up on YouTube and Facebook. So that's my team. I'm very grateful to that. And of course, we have East Hampton Cable, which is fabulous as well. The next thing I want to do is try to explain why I fell in love with The Infinite Way. I read Parenthesis in Eternity and I could hardly breathe. I could hardly breathe because I lost a husband at 26 years of age after I had my second baby. So I had two babies under the age of a year and a half, and the blow about my kids just about killed me. I mean, I needed something. And I'd been a student of Christian Science. My father was a Christian Scientist. My grandparents in the 1800s were practitioners. So one of us Chattertons had to pick up the baton about a sort of far out thinking. And Joel Goldsmith was a healer for me. When I read that book, I said, I got to read them all. And I did. But I'll tell you about that in a minute. I want to go to my family. That husband that I lost, David, was 26. And I just have to tell you, he was a child prodigy musician. The two kids I got, Christopher and Stephanie, are incredible musicians. First of all, David was an organist, a baritone. He went to the New England Conservatory. He was brilliant. And he even had, I think, an organist job when he was 13 years old. I mean, he was remarkable. And then we have Christopher. Christopher, my oldest child, is a heavy metal star. He's a guitarist. He's played with a lot of bands. He's going to be opening soon with something called Super B. And he's remarkable. He's just very, very gifted. And then we have Stephanie. I have two redheads. I mean, two redheads have redheads. But Stephanie is a singer-songwriter. She is a singer, a beautiful singer. She graduated as in voice, and she's a piano teacher. So those are my two kids. And then I always have to mention Alexander, because later in life, when I remarried, I had Alex. So I have three kids, and they bond together. They take care of each other, which is me putting a gun to their heads. They had better. And I'm very, very grateful to my family. And then we get to Joel. Now Joel was born in the late 1800s. He was a tailor, a Jewish tailor from Brooklyn. And his mother always used to say, God, you want to find God, don't you, Joel? And, you know, I read something very funny because he didn't like this dimension, and I heard for the first 2 years of life he cried. But anyway, he did his retailing, and he toured the world selling fabrics, and then I think his father got sick. And a Christian Scientist said, hey, why don't you let me have a shot at it? And apparently the father was healed. And then later in life, Joel Goldsmith was healed by a Christian Scientist, and that was it. He went to the First Church in Boston. He was a first reader. He opened up a business as a healer, as a Christian Scientist. So we've got this Christian Scientist going on, and it's so interesting. I love the fact he's so open about being honest about what being in a church was like or working with people, because he noticed there was some good and evil going on in those churches. I mean, there was a human dimension that just seemed to be there because it was there. And it was making him uncomfortable, and I'm not sure how he got his first shot at being the channel for the Infinite Way. I'm not sure. All I know is he wrote 50 books. He's done hundreds of lectures. He's toured the world. He's global. The Infinite Way is global. But anyway, all of a sudden he realized something was missing, and that's when his ordained God, of which I've been ordained to do this, but he was ordained to do the infinite way, and everything was channeled to him. He would stand up in front of a crowd, not knowing where he was going to go or what he was going to do, and it just bombed through him. It's brilliant material. Well, I have to tell you, and Joel will be the first one to tell you, don't tell all your friends about it. And I say that because it can be far out to tell people you're invisible, you're perfect, everything's great. When you live in a dimension where you do have to sort of deal with, oh my God, good and evil, things happen, and it's pretty hard to escape that unless you do your inner work, which is what Joel is all about, meditation. And frankly, friends, that's where I am right now. I did all those books, I did all those lectures, I did all that studying. I really studied hard to cough up the material because I was so impressed. But it led me, which is why I'm sort of doing a closure show today, because it led me to being a meditator. And when you are a meditator and you really can't read another book or listen to another lecture because you're done, you listen for that still small voice, and that is the whole point of the infinite way. The still small voice. You have been ordained within with a guidance. You have a consciousness that's unique, that's been given an assignment if you listen. And the only way you're going to find out is to meditate and ask and listen. Those little hunches that you get, believe it or not, those are coming from your source. You have a source, a God presence within you for your individual consciousness. Can you imagine that? An individual consciousness with a destiny ordained to do something. So I was ordained to do the infinite way, and we call it Awaken the Dream TV, where people can find it. Joel changed my life. He lived to be, I think, in the 70s. He quietly went to bed and passed. No one knew if he was well. He was just so energetic. He just was spontaneous. He listened. And he asked. There were times he had to pull his car over because something was haunting him, and really listen to what the voice said. And something is very important I want to tell you. Joel was a mystic, yes. The Christ mind, our Jesus, also said something that Joel will never forget. Narrow is the way, straight is the gate, narrow is the way, and few there be that find it. Now, what does that tell you? This is why you don't blab to your friends about what you believe, because it's not for everybody. When you're ready for it, the universe will make sure you get it. Believe me, it'll happen. And eventually it will happen. Whether it's the infinite way or whether you just listen to hunches and still small voices, that's the way it's going to go. So anyway, meditate, friends, and listen, be guided. The Christ mind, and this is another conception about Jesus Christ. The Christ mind was in Buddha. It was in former mystics. There have been many mystics in history that might not have written those books, but they were existing like the Christ. And so Joel's message is, and Jesus's message is, we've got the Christ mind. In other words, the Christ mind is listening. It's showing up in meditation and listening. That is the Christ mind. Now, Joel was a character. He was very outspoken. He complained. He loved people. He traveled. But he always kept the faith. He would just sit quietly and listen and learn and get this little narrow way, which was for him. And I love the fact that he shares how the Christ mind is in all of us. Think about that. You have the power of listening, the power of actually accepting the fact that a little God energy is within you for your individual expression. You can be a janitor, you can be an author, you can be a dancer. It doesn't matter that you're a professional teacher or anything, or preacher. It doesn't matter about that. It matters that you see others as you. Okay, so you get it, that you're perfect, you're whole, the divine riches are within you. You know that, you learned that. The heavenly riches are all within you all the time. Now, I know the earth plane gets in there and you have to shoo it away. And I must admit, it's annoying. I mean, I'm shooing it away a lot, but it's also wonderful to know the truth. So here's your deal. Let's say you just wrote a book, a fairy tale. You're giving a presentation in a bookstore. All you have to do, no matter what your destiny is, or your mission, or your talent, maybe you're a singer, is see others the way you are. You see the perfection in everyone. You see the divine in everyone. The worst person you know, who may not have a clue as to how divine they are. You have a job. If you're going to help obliterate this plane with good and evil, that's what we're doing. We can do it with our hearts, with our thoughts, with our minds, with our souls. We can perceive the perfection in everyone in our life. Everyone. No exceptions. The worst person you know. I love saying that. So anyway, my friends, that's the job. No matter what your talent is, not everybody was meant to be a preacher. When I was on the Cape, it was interesting before I read that Joel book. For about 20 years, because I had the Christian Science background and the Methodist mother and the trauma that I had in my life, really, we all have trauma being born. I sat with many priests, rabbis, Buddhists. I mean, I was thrilled to be the hostess. And I was the hostess. And for 20 years, we kept putting those shows up until I read that book. Parenthesis in Eternity, that's it. I sat down and I couldn't believe it. Then I realized it was my turn. After 20 years of entertaining Awaken the Dream people, Course in Miracles people, Eckhart Tolle people, you name whatever the spiritual practice is, if a person can come and be creative with me about how they created their spiritual practice. That can be unique. So after that, Awaken the Dream was created. I don't know if we had another name at the very beginning. All I know was I was nervous at first. It took a while for me to relax enough to actually channel what I had studied. And believe me, I studied. I studied those books like you wouldn't believe. I read every one of them. I listened to all the lectures. I took notes galore. At the beginning in particular, I was trying to memorize all my scripts. And then I got to the point, as I softened, I relaxed a little bit. It was gradual. I'm a freckly redhead and I have a case of nerves like anybody. But eventually I realized I had the gist. And then I began to just have some spot thoughts, some ideas about where the show was going to go without having to memorize all the notes. And before I knew it, I became more relaxed. Like today, I'm pretty joyful. Not because I'm climaxing Awaken the Dream. I'm not joyful about that. I'm grateful because I had such a great time with Tim and Ellery doing this. I mean, it's been a blast. I've had nervous times where I've thought, oh my God, I was awful. And then there were times where I thought, gee, I was really on today. I guess you never know sometimes what your mood is. But anyway, I'm joyful, grateful. And I'm moving on to creating a group where people can get together about other ideas that they're going through, where we listen to one another and support one another with the love in our hearts. It's time. It's time. And my family, I mean, David, my late husband, really, Awaken the Dream has everything to do with me being two parents. When I lost him, I kind of realized I'm a little compulsive about showing up for Christopher and Stephanie as two parents. I always figure that's the least I can do because they lost their father. And it's been a tough journey, trying to be both parents, trying not to put my foot in my mouth, trying not to smother them, which I can do. But it's their turn to smother me, I think, because I'm getting older and they're on their own 2 feet. I mean, Chris is out playing with his guitar and Stephanie's out singing and teaching, and David is very missed. To have a unique life like his end so soon, being so brilliant, was mystifying I mean, I know he's out there somewhere. I know he's doing something. And he must have come into this incarnation. I mean, how do you come into this incarnation with being a child prodigy musician? I mean, you got to have done it before somewhere else, or you grew in another lifetime. And that's another thought about lifetimes. I've had some glimpses. I left my body when I was a teenager with someone I picked up on as a voice teacher who was a mystic. And we didn't talk about it, but I knew who she was. I just had this open heart as to how she lived and talked and breathed. And sure enough, when I was a kid, I left my body. The only thing I really remember was how heavenly it is. Where we're going, folks, oh my God. You don't want to come back. No wonder Joel cried for 2 years. I came back with a crash. My heart broke, and I couldn't figure it out then. Now I know my heart broke because I came back. Where I was there's no words for the divine place we are from and who we are. As spirits, we are invisible spirits. My dog showed me that. My sister once said, don't tell anybody that, but Miranda I had for about 7 years, and oh my God, she was like my daughter. And she had an accident, and I had to put her down, of which I still to this day regret it. But and I wept forever. I'm such a dog freak and a cat freak. But 7 days after that, I was uncomfortable sleeping, and I was told, my soul said, turn over. I turned over, and out of my back lifted this 2-foot energy, and it was Miranda. And I felt the whiplash going up to the energy, whatever you call that, going up to the ceiling. I felt her presence, and that's her devotion to me, where she didn't want to leave me, and to this day that makes me weep. That kind of devotion between an animal and an owner, I don't know, there are no words about that. They give, they give, they give. And so Miranda was also another wonderful message about being invisible. So can you imagine, we lumber in these bodies, we carry on in these bodies, but our souls are invisible, and they can leave us and they can come back, and when we go, we're going to just zoom up to the ceiling and we're going to move on, and who knows where, unless you're so psychic that you can know that. Some people may know where they're going or where they've come from, but I think it's kind of, I think there's no accident. I had those experiences to be open to what I'm doing with Awaken the Dream, with the Infinite Way. I mean, Joel just said what I needed to hear, and Joel also let me be the student teacher of his work. It's never my information, it's always me teaching what Joel knew. He was brilliant. And I'm sure his mother was very happy he found God. So my friends, I give thanks. Even though I lost a husband, the pain that I went through opened me up. And pain and loss, we all go through it. I mean, if it's your own pet, if it's somebody in your family that had an accident, or a friend that passed away that you were close to, I mean, we all go through that. I mean, it's just the human scene. It's good to have a place to go and know people are whole, complete, and perfect all the time. Straight is the way, and narrow is the way, and few there be that find it. And I think you find it when you're ready to find it. You've hurt enough. You have to go within to your soul. You have to go deep within and share your heart with you. That's a very, very smart thing to do, friends. Open your heart in your prayer life. Let it all hang out, how you feel. Cry. It's healing. And you know what? You feel better afterward. Don't hide anything from you. It's critical. Loss teaches us a huge lesson. I mean, I'm sure there are people that deny loss or don't want to deal with it and may have to do it another time, but it opens doors. And it opens doors to new relationships. I mean, all of a sudden, before you know it, as you change and your heart is wide open, other folks come into your life. Another chapter comes into your life. Something new comes into your life. There are no surprises on this journey. No matter where you are, no matter what you do, new information and new relationships come. They just come into your life, and be surprised and love it and say, oh my God, guess what? I love this. We can talk. We can talk. Yes, I was also interested because I was raised in a Methodist church as well, which was great. It was very warm and loving, and it's the Christian Science in the old days. Sometimes they, there were some accidents that happened where maybe they could have gotten some help, but they were idealistic, and I don't know how they are today, to be honest with you. I'm not a Christian Scientist. I'm an infinite way teacher, and actually what I am is a meditator. And the still small voice is my life. And I can't say enough, friends, you all have an individual place to go within yourself. Open up and listen up. Oh, and there's one more person I want to mention. Diane Doheny was on my show centuries ago. She's a teacher, a therapist, but she knows the infinite way, and we've been great buddies, and she was a terrific support to me, and I want to say thank you, Diane, for all of that. Again, my team, Tim and Ellery, my family, David, Christopher, Stephanie, Alexander, Joel, and my dad, actually. When I think about being a Christian Scientist, even though, he had his struggles with it, he still lived outside of the box, like his parents, my grandparents in the 1800s, practitioners. I mean, that's amazing. I'm very grateful for that. That opened doors for me that I had to think about, like, how could anybody think that way? Anyway, my friends, I'm winding down because it's time, and I want to say thank you so much for listening and watching Awaken the Dream, and for really loving Joel Goldsmith. I can only encourage you to keep reading his books, listen to his lectures. You can always hear my shows again if you wanna, because he's what a gift. So again, I'm grateful to all of you. You're my friends, and you always will be. And thank you again for joining me on Awaken the Dream. Bye for now.